All right, let's bring in Arkansas Republican Senator Tom Cotton. Senator, great to have you here. Let's dig in there, and we can pop back up on the screen the breakdown of the Senate races with 4 in the toss-up category. Obviously, Arizona, watching Georgia, Nevada, and Pennsylvania, the open seat there. So what do you see happening here, and what do you attribute the loss of momentum for your party?
Well, Sandra, I'm confident that we're going to win control of the House and the Senate. I wouldn't say that we've had any lost momentum. Look, these Senate races are very competitive. They're going to go down to the wire in many states. The Democrats, of course, have a very energized far-left base that is happy that Joe Biden and Democrats in Congress have been trying to deliver on their far left-wing demand. If they can't do it through legislation, then Joe Biden does it through executive action. But most Americans look at, for instance, Joe Biden's interview on 60 Minutes over the weekend and see a leader who's totally out of touch with what's happening in our country, saying that inflation has been flat when inflation is up at record high levels for the last year and a half since he took office. Or Democrats who consistently are running on pro-criminal policies that have contributed to the crime wave we see all across our country, to include the opioid epidemic that are affecting so many of our states, or the open border that we now know from the latest numbers have more than 4 million, maybe more than 5 million illegal aliens entering our country just since Joe Biden took office.
So what's the strategy?
In the end, even though these races are going to be close, I think those are the issues that voters are going to decide on in November.
Really interesting. And the momentum point was that it was predicted that we would see a red wave, particularly in the House in the November election. You've seen the potential margin of victory certainly shrink for Republican victory, while Republicans do still have the advantage. So you're talking about the top issues. Obviously, Democrats have been able to, in many cases, energize their base with abortion rights. So how do you champion Republican messaging on some of these key issues, which are clearly still inflation, the economy, crime, immigration? Are Republicans getting their messaging straight this close to Election Day?
Well, first, Sandra, the Democrats want to portray Republicans as extreme on abortion, but it's really the Democrats who are the extremists on abortion. Take 2 critical battleground elections for Senate in New Hampshire and Nevada. The people of those states have both chosen to have abortion permissible up to 24 weeks, but impose reasonable restrictions on late-term abortion. That's the choice that the people of those states made for their own state. But Democratic senators are so radical and so extreme that they would override their own state's laws to mandate and require late-term partial birth abortion funded by taxpayer dollars. That's not speculation. That's not a hypothetical. That's what Democratic senators like Kathy Cortez Masto and Maggie Hassan actually voted for earlier this year. It's the Democrats who are extreme on abortion, in addition to being extreme and out of the mainstream on things like simple border security, or getting tough on criminals, or trying to stop this runaway inflation that is harming so many families.
Has Lindsey Graham's messaging on a federal ban on abortion gotten in the way of that?
I don't think it has, because Lindsey Graham has proposed something the Senate has voted on in the past, which is reasonable restrictions on late-term abortions that would simply bring the United States in line with much of the developed civilized world. France, for instance, not a notoriously conservative country, has earlier regulations on abortion. But again, we don't have to speculate about hypothetical bills that a Republican Congress might pass. We know what a Democratic Congress would pass, because it's exactly what they tried to do earlier this year, mandating things like late-term partial birth abortion paid for with taxpayer dollars, even though in some cases, like Nevada, like New Hampshire, the people of those states have already made their own choices for regulating late-term abortion.
Real quick final question here, because I know you've written a letter along, more than 30 senators have, including yourself. House Oversight Committee voting on a Hunter Biden resolution today. This after more than 30 senators, including yourself, sent AG Garland a letter demanding a special counsel investigation into the president's son. In that letter, you say, given the politicization of the DOJ under your watch and the importance of avoiding any appearance of impropriety, the undersigned request that you provide U.S. Attorney Weiss the full protections and authorities of a special counsel. This is one important action that you can take that will go a long way to restoring faith in our governmental institutions. Real quick, where do you think this goes next, Senator?
Well, Sandra, I don't think we can trust Attorney General Merrick Garland not to politicize this investigation the way he's politicized the Department of Justice. Remember last year when he sicked the feds on parents attending school board meetings, or earlier this year when he refused to enforce the law and arrest protesters outside of Supreme Court justices' homes in clear violation of federal law. We're not even asking for the appointment of a special counsel, as happened, for instance, against Donald Trump. We're merely asking the Attorney General to provide special counsel protections to the U.S. Attorney who is already investigating Hunter Biden's many crimes. I think that's a necessary step to ensure that that investigation is not politicized.
All right, Senator, appreciate you joining us today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sandra.
All right, John.